Gonjasufi, a Sufi and a killer.
Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, back with an album review after a short break. I spent quite a bit of time this past weekend and yesterday making sure the website is up after it got taken down by Blogger. Have a new platform up right now, new blog, new look, new layout, and basically it's a skeleton right now. It's not really full of all that much information, but I'm going to be looking forward to periodically spending the rest of this week filling it with stuff that needs to be on the website. Alright guys, we're going to talk about an LP here, Gonjasufi's A Sufi and a Killer. Now if you're looking for an LP to send a shock through your musical sensibilities, this is exactly what you're looking for. And the reason this thing should really be a bombshell to everyone is because of how seamlessly it just melds numerous genres together, one after another. I'm talking hip-hop music, I'm talking funk music, soul music, Middle Eastern folk music, pop music, psychedelic rock, and all of it is filtered through this very avant-garde, very lo-fi production style. The best way I can think to describe it is Tom Waits and Captain Beefheart are totally wigged out on psychedelic drugs. They're driving a Cadillac, they're going down the street, and they have Jay Dilla on the car radio. They're blasting that, and they're on the way to go pick up Old Dirty Bastard of the Wu-Tang Clan after soccer practice. But, what interrupts them is George Clinton is walking down the street with a shopping cart full of sitars, turntables, old funk records, a few Paul McCartney albums, when Tom Waits and Captain Beefheart, without looking, accidentally hit him. Now, who's witness to this? Sun Ra. And he stands on the stand in court and sends Tom Waits and Captain Beefheart to jail. Amen. Vehicular manslaughter. That's the only way I can think to describe the breadth of styles and ideas that this LP covers. It's definitely the ultimate psychedelic hip-hop mixtape, best suited for listening in the middle of the desert. At a lot of points, it's almost impossible to tell what's sampled and what's not, what's real and what's not, because there's so much vinyl crackle all over this LP, and rough, warm, fuzzed-out instrumentation. There are a lot of clunky drums, some fat bass lines, some tinny, shredded, sharp guitars. There's obviously some sampling going on here. There's some organs, some horns, and almost everything is slathered in this really trippy, spacey delay effect. And one of the most defining characteristics of this entire LP, of course, is Gonjasufi's voice. And it can range from being pretty understated, pretty silky, or smooth if he wants it to be, but a lot of the time, what's the most grating on the ears and the most attention-grabbing is when he's just yelling into the mic, almost shoving it inside of his mouth and going, "Cowboys and Indians, cowboys." And of course, maybe you could also liken it to these down-tuned metalcore bands who just shove the microphones in their mouth and But if anything's clear, Gonjasufi really has some strange mic etiquette when it comes to the world of hip-hop music. And even though this LP, at first listen, is kind of rough to the touch, don't let that fool you into thinking that this thing is just thrown together. It's most definitely not the case. There are some real underground hip-hop heavyweights on this record, like Mainframe, The Gaslamp Killer, and of course, Flying Lotus. And all three of these guys, especially Flying Lotus, have very detailed, experimental, and meticulous production styles. And I would say right now, if you're into Flying Lotus, or those past two, you really owe it to yourself to pick up this album. Going back to the production, a lot of the highs and the mids on this LP are thin, or ripped, or torn, or very tinny, or maybe a little harsh, but the lows really maintain that bassy, resonant hip-hop kind of sound. So it lends this album a lot of dynamics. There's a lot of originality and a lot of eccentricity, and I feel like this thing just ingrained itself on the back of my head after the first listen, just because there's not a lot of stuff out there like this. After the first listen, I just ran right back to it, wanting to hear it again, just because it was such a strange experience. If you're looking for a hardcore riff, something that rocks out, something that's really catchy, this may not be the album that you're looking for. There are a lot of quiet moments on here, a lot of subdued moments, and just frankly, a lot of more ambient, more experimental tones to this album too. Like I said, a lot of variety. Not a lot of traditional song structures on this album, and I can see how a lot of the strangeness, how a lot of the fringe elements of this album could wear on some people very quickly. And even though this thing is just around an hour long, it kind of takes that J Dilla Donuts approach to making an LP, where it doesn't really create songs as much as it creates moments. A lot of people I could see saying that's like Getting Nothing Done. However, I feel like that's Nothing Getting Old. Despite its lack of fleshed out songs, I think this thing is really frickin' consistent in its goodness and its weirdness. The production on this LP is amazing. I think this album is an extreme feat for underground hip-hop music. It's a great introduction to Gonjasufi and a fantastic addition to the amazing list of albums that are on the Warp Records label. And the beat makers on A Sufi and a Killer really improve and experiment with their craft, taking a lot of these hip-hop sensibilities and putting them in a place where not a lot of people have ever put them. Though I could see this album turning a lot of people off at first listen, just sit there, sort of see if it grows on you. I have to give it a light 9, with my only complaint being that after it was over, I just wanted more. I just wanted to hear them experiment more, just push the boundaries more. Because I think that boundary pushing is the best attribute this thing has going for it. This is getting a high recommendation from me. I hope it gets a couple listens from you. And thank you for watching. Hope you guys dig the new website. Gonjasufi, A Sufi and a Killer. Anthony Fantano, forever.